It's been over a week since thousands of judicial workers and judges in Mexico went on strike against proposed judicial reforms by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, also known as AMLO. President AMLO is set to leave office next month, in September, and under Mexican law, he cannot run for office again. So what is the controversy surrounding these proposed reforms, and why is AMLO pushing for them? What are the proposed reforms? At the heart of these so-called reforms is a law that would require all judges, including Supreme Court justices and magistrates of the federal branch, to be elected by popular vote, making competence and professional experience a secondary priority. This plan would also affect the current judges in the judiciary through staggered elections, with half of the members elected in 2025 and the other half in 2027. The problem is not only that there would be elections to recruit members of the judiciary, it also grants immense power to the executive and legislature, which are currently dominated by the governing coalition led by the Morena party. Under this plan, judicial candidates would be nominated by the executive, legislature, and judiciary, who would then be vetted by an expert evaluation committee to create a shortlist. The candidates would later be selected through a lottery system. These proposed reforms also mandate Mexico's 32 states to implement the same model for their state judiciaries. Need and consequences of these reforms. While the majority of the public and scholars agree that there is a need to overhaul the Mexican judicial system, an annual government survey in 2023 found that half of the respondents had little to no confidence in the judicial system. It also found that in 92% of cases, crime is not reported in the country. In terms of the rule of law, Mexico ranks 116th out of 142 countries worldwide. But many say judges are the wrong target. As Human Rights Watch argued, President López Obrador and President-elect Sheinbaum should abandon their crusade against judges and instead commit to improving the weakest link in Mexico's justice system, prosecutors' offices. That would better serve the interests of all Mexicans. President López Obrador has accused judges of bowing to organized crime and has criticized the judiciary for causing impunity in the country. However, according to a report by WALA, a research and advocacy group working for human rights in the Americas, in the overwhelming majority of cases, impunity is caused by prosecution officers at the investigation level, not by judicial authorities. Nevertheless, they acknowledge the corruption within the judiciary and the need to combat it effectively. The consequences of these reforms could be long-lasting, as the judiciary, due to the immense power of government, would become aligned with the party in power. Personal and political gains would triumph over competence, and in the long term, the judiciary could be captured by the political party. Those who seek this office would also have to align with other interests, requiring fundraising to run their campaigns, which would compromise their integrity once in office. Neighboring America is a prime example of the effects of politicizing the judiciary. While different states have different selection processes, Supreme Court judges are appointed by the president, and must often cozy up to that office to be considered. The president's prejudices also seep through. Former President Donald Trump has long been criticized for appointing conservative judges to the Supreme Court, who later overturned Roe v. Wade and granted him impunity for actions taken during his executive tenure. Under President Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan judiciary and electoral institutions also became increasingly politicized. Judges were often appointed based on loyalty to the regime rather than merit, and electoral bodies were manipulated to ensure Maduro's dominance. This undermined the rule of law, eroded public trust, and contributed to severe economic crises and political instability. In Mexico, human rights groups fear that tying the judiciary to the president would have a similar effect. It would also give the Mexican government increased influence over arbitrary detentions. The government has long clashed with the judiciary over its role in these detentions. Thousands of people are detained in Mexico without any charges, a practice the judiciary has consistently opposed. Various human rights groups and the Inter-American Court of Human Rights have found Mexico in violation of human rights. Until now, the judiciary has been a hurdle in the government's path, but this obstacle could be removed in the coming months as the judiciary will be forced to align with the government's stance. Economic impact. These reforms would impact Mexico not only politically but also economically. The country is currently the largest trading partner of America, and U.S. Ambassador to Mexico Ken Salazar has stated that they pose a risk to Mexican democracy and threaten the historical commercial relations between the two countries. Canadian Ambassador Graham Clark also criticized the reforms, saying, "My investors are concerned, they want stability, they want a judicial system that works if there are problems." Morgan Stanley also downgraded its recommendation for investing in Mexico, stating that the changes would increase risk. The Mexican government is rejecting these accusations and saying that statements made by U.S. officials do not respect the country's sovereignty. Historically, the U.S. has intervened in several Latin American countries, and most are quick to dismiss its intervention on moral grounds. However, within the U.S., this narrative remains undamaged. The Washington Post published an editorial on August 25 claiming that the U.S. is right to weigh in at a time when Mexico's rule of law is in danger. Precedents from other countries. After the criticism from the American ambassador regarding these reforms, Mexican President-elect Claudia Sheinbaum responded by noting that in 43 of the 50 states in the United States, judges are elected by popular vote. And while her numbers are off, she is not incorrect in her assessment. In the U.S., federal judges are appointed by the president and then confirmed by the Senate after intense scrutiny, background checks, and reviews of their previous judgments. At the state level, most judges are elected through votes. A Guardian report places the number of states that elect judges at 38. These judges must pass strict eligibility requirements to contest the elections, but the system is not very different from the one Mexico is proposing. Currently, Bolivia is the only country that elects most of its judges through popular vote, and it ranks as one of the worst countries in terms of the rule of law, placing 130th out of 140 countries worldwide. In most countries, judges are appointed by the executive, and in others, through consultation between the judiciary and the executive. Are these reforms imminent? Currently, Mexico's governing coalition has the required seats to pass this legislation in the lower house of Congress. However, it would need 3 votes from other parties in the Senate. The ruling coalition secured 73% of the seats in the lower house despite winning less than 60% of the votes, due to a controversial ruling by the country's electoral watchdog that aided them in this cause. Moreover, the incoming President Sheinbaum also supports AMLO's move, indicating that she will continue his policies. She is likely to do so because AMLO still exerts significant control over the party and the country's politics, and Sheinbaum needs his support to maintain her presidency.